everybody, welcome back to Politics Relaxed. It's been a bit of a while, but today we're going to be talking about the Labour reshuffle that happened this week. I mean, the main theme was big people within the Labour Party getting a promotion. I mean, Yvette Cooper being the main example of that. I mean, what is this an election shadow cabinet? And did he make good decisions? Is the opening.
Well, I think it's close to it. Okay,
it's stronger than the last one for him.
I think it's getting closer. It's getting closer to something that can remotely challenge. I mean, they're still yet to feel this fire and this passion within the Labour Party, but that is something that can come from this new shadow cabinet. Big figures such as like David Lammy in the shadow great officers of state, Ed Miliband moving sidewards, and Lisa Nandy as levelling up. I think Lisa Nandy as levelling up is going to be a big match to watch. I don't think match is a good way to describe it, but you know what I mean. Lisa Nandy versus Michael Gove. I think a lot of people have called the government very bad at delivering on their promises, and Lisa Nandy is one to call government ministers out and hopefully do her job of holding the government to account if the government don't deliver on their big levelling up plans.
See, here's why I mean, we'll talk about Lisa Nandy now because you brought her up as your main point. So I think Lisa Nandy is a good pick for levelling up secretary, if that's what you want to call it. I think it's a bit of a silly name because I don't really think that levelling up will be or does exist. But she's good because she's northern. One, she represents a pro-Brexit area, a kind of red wall seat, which voted Brexit but still votes Labour, which is what Labour need to be showing off to the country. Look at how we're still a northern party, which they very much should be. And yes, she will challenge Michael Gove. And I mean, Michael Gove hasn't been seen for how many months? I haven't seen him getting interviewed for over 2 months now. And so he's got a lot going on in his personal life, but he also has a big ministerial brief that needs action. He was brought in there for action, and we've seen, as of yet, none, really. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the levelling up secretary has done in the last few months. He's done nothing. And Lisa Nandy will call that out if he ever actually turns up to do anything ever again.
I think it should just be noted that Yvette Cooper's move to Shadow Home Secretary does, in a sense, represent, I would say, an ideological shift within the Labour Party and the cabinet to one of more centrist ground. And I view the cabinet reshuffle as one of Starmer's last or more defined acts of ending and bring closure to the Corbynite years. Yvette Cooper was in Blair's cabinet. That only serves to exemplify her Blairite views. And so I think what it does represent is perhaps a more defined role and a more defined direction for the Labour Party, and more specifically Keir Starmer's Labour Party, that has perhaps been lacking over the past couple of years.
I'm not sure that is how I would read it. I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but I don't know if that's how I'd read it, because the person who was in there before, I mean, I don't think you could tell me his name. I can tell you his name only when I look it up. And what was his name? Yeah, that's the point. But what I do know about him is he was a pragmatist. He was seen as somebody who was kind of hardworking and diligent. He wasn't really seen as a media figurehead, so to speak. Yvette Cooper is a big Yvette Cooper. Yvette Cooper is seen as a much bigger force within the Labour Party. She's got kind of a faction, which, as you say, is the Blairite faction, and that is something to read into. But more to the point, she's competent and she's going to hold. I mean, if I were Priti Patel, especially after the month she's been having with all the stuff that's been going on between Calais and the UK, and I'd be a bit worried going up against her in when she's questioned at the dispatch box. So I think that's more what it is. It's a move towards a bit more powerful person, a more kind of person who's going to get recognised for the things they're doing. Because the guy before, as I say, I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, but my point being is that by reinstating this figurehead of the Blairite years, that does stick a label on the Labour Party as more of a centrist party. And yeah, she may represent values such as competence because of her prior work, but it definitely does sort of implement this sort of flagship message that the Labour Party is done with Corbyn. Once more.
Another person who does that is Wes Streeting, who's another much more centrist person than the Labour Party. I mean, less well known slightly, but before he was a child poverty minister, which is it on the face of it is a very, very low brief. They don't even have a opposition in the House of Commons, but yeah, he got a lot of airtime, and he's a very good speaker, and he did a lot of good work in that role. And he's another very centrist person with the Labour Party. And it shows a move towards more media people and, as you say, more centre-left, centrist people within the Labour Party. And he's now health secretary, so there's going to be a lot of eyes on him over the next few months as we transition out of the pandemic, hopefully.
Transitioning out. The pandemic will be with us for a long, long time, I reckon. So we've got to live with this for the next 10 years, perhaps. Maybe. Let's not make this a COVID episode. Again. So what else?
Well, I mean, the next big one was David Lammy to Shadow Foreign Secretary. I obviously spoke to David Lammy, and you can go and watch the video. That's there. Yeah, I think he's risen up within the Labour Party extremely quickly, from a backbencher to one of the most important people within the Labour Party, and I think it's a positive thing that that side, I think, in politics is now getting much more representation. People from like the places in London, especially the black and minority ethnic people, and it's important that we get them, I say, because I mean Hackney is he's obviously not, he's Tottenham, but these are some of the poorest boroughs within the UK, and I think it's important that they get a national voice. But also I think he's a really good speaker, and from what I've seen of him, he seems to have done his job well, and he's well liked and respected within the Labour Party. So I think it's another good move from Stammer. Anyone?
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. That's nothing more to add there.
He's fine, I guess. I mean, he's what is there to say?
Yeah, I mean, his predecessor was Lisa Nandy. Again, spoke to her. But she was Shadow Foreign Secretary. But I didn't think that role suited her that well, in my view. We already spoke about her, but I don't think the role suited her that well. She's not somebody who's going to go out and do diplomacy on the world scale and shake hands with world leaders. That's not how she operates, and I think it's better that she's operating now in a national role. But do you think it's a good swap, Lammy for Lisa Nandy?
Well, for the Labour Party, I'd suppose he's in a much higher position than he previously was, and he's. I don't know much about him. I think I do know that he's in the Starmerite faction, if that's even a thing, and that is probably a good choice.
One thing that we haven't come on to yet is the Angela Rayner bust up, nearly a second botched reshuffle. The first one was definitely badly done after hours of negotiation with Angela Rayner, but now that thankfully that kind of argument was averted, but she wasn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just think that we can attribute much of the success of New Labour to the dynamic between Prescott and Blair, and the fact that although Prescott, was perhaps more left-leaning and obviously Blair was more centrist, they made it work, right? And while Starmer is more centrist and Angela Rayner is more left wing, I think that their contrasting personalities and perhaps Rayner's quite aggressive and at times stubborn nature will definitely impede upon the functioning of the party. And as a consequence of the Labour Party's elections for deputy leader, she's immovable. I'm sure if Starmer could, he'd remove her because she is causing friction within the party, and I can't see I can't see the Labour Party achieving its full its electoral potential with that gridlock.
Well, yeah, she certainly does seem to be the problem child of the Labour Party right now. I mean, that's I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing because it's nice to she is keeping the Labour Party in the media, I suppose, and all media is good media or whatever. Gets people talking.
Is that how low the Labour Party has now stooped?
Well, it's not like Starmer has any personality that people can talk about. Gotta have someone in there if they want to actually be charismatic enough to win an election. I mean, Boris Johnson only rose up from a journalist to mayor of London and then prime minister because of his distinctive personality, which is very distinctive, and that's something that not anyone in the Labour Party for the last 15 years has had. So,
God, every time I talk about the Labour Party, it makes me feel less and less.
And we talk about them an awful lot.
Yeah, makes me feel less and less hopeful. But I don't want to go into that too much. But I think that Ollie brought up an interesting point about Prescott and Blair, because we haven't seen a strong dynamic between leader and co-leader of the Labour Party for a while. I mean, there was before Angela Rayner, there was Tom Watson. That's the name. And between Tom Watson,
he was deputy leader.
Yeah, deputy leader Tom Watson and then leader Corbyn. It was very
they had quite a bit of friction between them, didn't they?
Yeah, very frosty relationship that eventually led to Tom Watson resigning and writing a lot of books that have nothing to do with politics, which I was interested to find out about a few months ago. So if you want to read about
it's like Nadine Dorries.
No, he's got one about, I think it's about weight loss, is it? I off the top of my head, I think Tom Watson has a book on weight loss.
No, I know all about Tom Watson's weight loss journey, and I think if I remember correctly, he lost a family member, which inspired him to, get into shape because he might lose his life next. And I watched a TV series that he appeared on. It was called something to do with a boat, where he rowed the entire length of Britain. And while he was rowing, he gave some amazing stories. So Tom Watson, brilliant character.
Wow.
He's also Wikipedia says he's also a keen gamer and a fan of alternative rock music.
Who is this guy?
Well, at least, you know what, Tom Watson, Keir Starmer needs to give Tom Watson a call, because he really does need some personality back in the Labour Party. So Tom Watson, come back and get a job.
Due to the rather stupid requirement for the deputy leader of the Labour Party needing to be elected, I don't think that's going to happen.
But he doesn't have to be deputy leader.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Put him in the next safe-ish by-election. Get him back in there, because he seems
he's not an MP anymore, is he?
No.
I think last time I remembered, I think he said that he didn't want to return to politics. So maybe that's
how do you know so much about Tom Watson?
Because how much he gave so many stories on the boat. So
anyway. I think Labour do have a bit of a talent problem. But back to Angela Rayner.
Yes, of course.
If we stop talking about Tom Watson,
she's brutish. She's inelegant. She's not very eloquent at times. She's far too emotive at times. It's not a pretty picture a lot of the time.
I think that's the representation of Britain. To be fair, so
I
like,
think
there's the thing. Like, she's not good. She's not good for the media, but she
No.
is like a true British woman.
I think there's a fine line that you have to toe between, because as I say, I really want to like her because her background and how far she's gone.
Yeah.
It's really, really impressive. But just like, she just needs to toe that line a little bit more. Just play it safe sometimes instead of. I like her passion, and I like how she approaches it a lot of the time. But just things like the Tory scum comment, she apologized for it, which I thought was very good of her, and because that does not happen anymore in politics very, very often. But I don't know. I just think I don't even know what the answer is, but I want to like her, and I feel like she's that 10% away from me liking her, if that makes sense.
For me, it's probably a bit further. I think we're talking 80, 90. But
Yes.
Well,
Perhaps she could invest in some media training if she hasn't already.
oh my god!
Get some,
Well, that's not funny. That was a serious point.
oh yeah, she needs it.
Invest in some media training.
get some
needs it.
PR.
She needs to learn how to address people with at least some degree of respect.
I think that's
some degree of
I think that's a little patronizing, a little.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
Coming
I
from
think that
Felix.
I think that like, I think that a lot of what she brings is very good, but just sometimes I mean I
I think her
don't.
passion can like overflow.
Well, that was